Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we are playing a deck that I like to call Lash Gordon, and that is because we are running a Monoblue Thought Lash combo deck. When I say Thought Lash combo deck, it's really just another one of these many Thassa's Oracle combo decks. So the aim of the game is to have 0 cards in your library and put Thassa's Oracle into play with this ability going on the stack and just winning you the game. Now the way we're doing that, one of the main ways is Thought Lash. So this is an enchantment with a cumulative upkeep of exiling the top card of your library, but it also says whenever a player doesn't pay Thought Lash's cumulative upkeep, you exile all cards from your library, and it's also got the text of exile the top card of your library to prevent the next 1 damage that will be dealt to you this turn. So this can keep you safe while you're trying to get your combo going, but it also gives you a way of exiling your whole library so that your Thassa's Oracle, once you get it in hand, you can just play it and you won't have a library. Easy peasy. Now the other part of this combo that you can also use is Paradigm Shift. So this exiles all cards from your library and then your graveyard becomes your library. So between this and Thassa's Oracle you can set up a kill very quickly. You can even, depending on what your hand's like, you can maybe do a turn 1 Paradigm Shift, turn 2 Thassa's Oracle. If you're like just throwing away like a Lotus Petal, so you crack the Lotus Petal, put it in the bin, Paradigm Shift, draw the Lotus Petal, play the Thassa's Oracle in your hand. Simple. That's the plan. To make this all work, we've got a few little bits and pieces. So we've got the usual tools you would expect. We've got some blue Force of Wills here to try and counter stuff. But then that's where we go a little bit different. So we are a Chalice of the Void deck because we've got these 4 Ancient Tombs in our deck. So we're playing these 4 Chalice of the Void because none of our combo really cares about CMC1. So we can kind of just skip it with this Chalice. We also have Lotus Petals to try and skip things along as well. So we've got Chalice of the Void has a form of protection which can stop various spells that can interact with our creatures and stop things going on. This is also useful to stop things like surgical extraction. If you're trying to do a paradigm shift line, having this in play is just nice. Obviously that's more of a sideboard thing, but still. And then we've got some dig spells in the form of Impulse and Thirst for Discovery. So we've got like, I think 16 islands in this list. So being able to draw 3 cards and then discarding a basic land feels like a pretty good place to be. We've got 2 Memory Deluge. So this is an interesting one. This is basically a 4 mana dig through time, but because we've got all this mana ramp in Ancient Tombs and stuff, I think the Memory Deluge is probably good enough here. So we can look at the top 4 and put 2 of them into our hand, and then when we flash it back, we can look at the top 7 and put 2 of them into our hand. So it's a dig through time on the back side, but not necessarily on the front side. Not sure how good this is going to be, but we're going to give it a go. And then the other part of the deck we have here is the Malevolent Hermits. So this is the way of us protecting our combo. So we can put this in and we can use this to counter spells. Then once we get on the flip side, our stuff is uncounterable. Now to find these pieces, this is a wizard. Thassa's Oracle is a wizard. We've got 3 Step Through. Step Through can also, in a pinch, be used to bounce some creatures. But mostly it's just going to be a case of using this to wizard cycle so we can uncounterably, apart from Stifle of course, find our Thassa's Oracle or Malevolent Hermit, whichever we need to either protect our combo or just to have our combo pieces. That's pretty much it for the main deck. It's just a dedicated combo deck. There are definitely builds of this that people run with the blue initiative creatures and stuff, but I think we're just going to go for the big combo. Now there's some things that are in some lists that aren't in this one. So we don't have a Cavern of Souls. We don't have Shelldock Isle. So that's 2 things we don't have here because we've got the massive basic island package. Now whether or not that's right or wrong, I don't know. I've not played this deck before, so I'm hoping to have a little go and find out. But Thirst for Discovery is a card you don't see very often, so I saw this list and sort of modified it a little bit, but thought I wanted to keep the Thirst for Discovery going. We also have 4 Ancient Tombs, which can come back to bite us because our combo involves a blue-blue spell, a blue-blue spell, and a 1-blue spell. So Ancient Tomb basically doesn't work to do your really super early Paradigm Shift, but it does help you in a lot of other ways in terms of it can Wizard Cycle on turn 1, it can cast a Chalice of the Void on turn 1. So it can also power out these Thirst for Discoveries and Memory Deluges a bit easier. So there's definitely a few bits of tension in this deck list, I would say. So I'm not 100% convinced, but I really wanted to play one of these Lash Gordon decks at some point, so here we are. Sideboard-wise, we've got a very hateful sideboard here. So we've got 4 Leyline of the Void for graveyard decks. And then for decks with a load of artifacts, we have 2 Null Rods and 2 Energy Flux. So this is going to be really good against not only things like 8-cast and Painter, but it's also going to be useful against Storm decks. So Null Rod against Storm is particularly difficult for them to beat. So we're hoping that these can carry us through, and obviously Null Rod being something we can cast off our Ancient Tomb is pretty good, especially since our Chalice doesn't care about Null Rod's abilities, so we can play Null Rod quite nicely and keep our chalices in. We've got 2 Force of Negation in case we need a little bit of extra stuff to survive long enough. This doesn't protect us on our turn when we're comboing, but it does stop our opponent if they're doing something really broken, like Reanimator. And then we have 3 defense grids for when our opponent is the slower deck, and we just want to make sure we can combo in peace. That's it for the deck list. It should be a bit of a blast, so I'm hoping we can get some nice little combo wins on the board today. So before we jump into a league, let me just do a little plug. Like, comment, subscribe. These things really help me out and they cost you nothing. I'm slowly getting close to that big 1,000 subscribers mark, so help me tip it over into 1,000. That'd be wonderful. All right, with that all done, let's jump into a Legacy League with Lash Gordon. We're on the play for round 1 and we don't have any mana, so this is an easy mulligan. This is a turn 1 Chalice into kind of waiting around for other stuff to happen, but we do have various bits of our combo going here, so I think we will keep this, and we're probably looking at bottoming the Memory Deluge just because it's the more expensive of the cards. So I think we are happy to play out our Lotus Petal here, and we'll play a Chalice for 1. Alright, so that's in. Either our opponent doesn't care about it or they have no interaction with it. Let's see what our opponent's up to. A Polluted Delta, sure. An Ancient Tomb would be a great draw here. Oh my god. I love it when a plan comes together. Sure, we have an Ancient Tomb. Let's pass the turn. If our opponent cracks their Polluted Delta, we'll fire off this Thirst for Discovery. Okay. Let's just cast this now, I suppose. Our opponent is representing something that could be Delver or it could be Death Shadow. Let's discard a basic land. Okay, so we have our combo. We just need the lands to put it together. So I think this turn we're Wizard Cycling. Yeah, so Death Shadow. So it could have been Delver because Delver just plays blue fetches, really. But the Watery Grave is a pretty clear sign. Wasteland's not really in any combo decks, it's just in these sorts of decks. Sure, a Baleful Strix. We can beat that. Right, let's Wizard Cycle. Let's get the Oracle. An Impulse. I think we are just passing the turn here. Chalice of the Void against Death Shadow is decidedly horrible for them because they've got Thoughtseize, Cantrips, and their win condition of Death Shadow. They're all 1-drops, so we can really shut them off a lot of things with this Chalice. And they can't really interact with it very easily. These Wastelands are not going to help our opponent out a great deal either. Let's have an Impulse. What are we looking for here? Just basic lands, I think, isn't it? We don't want to play the Thought Lash out. I guess it doesn't really matter what one of these. So, well, actually, that's not true. Maybe it does matter the order because of the nature of our deck. Maybe I should have thought a bit more about that one. Okay. So we can play out this Lotus Petal to help us play around Daze. And I guess we try a Thought Lash. If they have a Force of Will, I imagine it's going on here. Sure. I think that's worth doing because our opponent isn't representing much of a threat right now. We have a lot of ways of drawing cards in our deck. Thoughtseize in Chalice of the Void. Okay, our opponent is running a Murktide deck here, I would assume. And that's why they are putting a card into the Chalice. Not sure why they've tapped one off the Wasteland. So they're filling their graveyard for the purposes of Murktide. Not sure why they have this 1 mana tap from the Wasteland. Maybe that was just an error. But running things into a Chalice makes sense if you've got Murktides in your deck. Okay, so we have a Force of Will now that we can hardcast. We don't want to play a Chalice on 2 because that shuts down our ability to win the game. So let's just pass a turn holding up Force of Will. We've got a lot of turns of these little Baleful Strixes hitting away at us. We've got a lot of card draw in our deck. So hopefully we can just find one of our other pieces. Thought Lash is definitely going to be better than Paradigm Shift because of the amount of cards in our graveyard right now. So this looks like a Murktide. This is worth a counterspell. 1, 2, 3, 4, and a blue. Okay, they've got a Daze, which we can't pay for, unfortunately. But I think we have to try and counter the Murktide due to the fact that it represents a much quicker clock in this game. Step through. If we draw another land, we can bounce the Murktide. That's probably worth doing. Can buy us a turn. I don't think stepping through for a Malevolent Hermit is going to help here. We need to buy more turns because the Murktide is something that is going to be hard for them to cast again. So we have the Paradigm Shift, but we have way too many cards in our graveyard right now. How are we supposed to get through this? I don't think we can beat what's on the board, so we're going to have to concede the game. It's been annoying. So we can block our opponent's counter spells with Defense Grid, which means if we're bringing in Defense Grid, we're probably boarding out Force of Will. That seems fine. Brazen Borrower is reasonable here to buy us extra turns. Unfortunately, it's a rogue, so we can't tutor for it with our step throughs. Yeah, I think this is fine here. We'll just submit. So this has a lot of card advantage, but it doesn't really go anywhere just yet. I don't know if we can reliably just play these things out and do our bits and pieces here. Although we have two non-basics. Sorry, we have two basics. I think we can keep this one and just hope we don't get griefed. Let's play out this island and this Lotus Petal. We're getting Thought Seized. This feels like a Thought Seize. Could easily be a Ponder though. Okay, it's a Thought Seize adding black mana. Thought Seize is especially bad for us because it also lowers their life total for the purposes of the Death Shadow. I don't think it's worth burning the Impulse in response because they'll take whatever we get. They might want to take someone like a Thirst for Discovery. This sees 3 cards, this sees 4, but we get 2 of these potentially. Okay, I took the Impulse. So we can cast the Thirst for Discovery next turn if we want to anyway. Sure. And there is another Thirst for Discovery. So we'll pass a turn. A Ponder, sure. So the one issue with this Thirst for Discovery right now is that we lose a Lotus Petal to do it. But I think we need to power through our deck a little bit more. I think it's worth casting. I don't know if this is worth our opponent countering. So I have to get rid of 2 cards here. I don't really want to get rid of Thassa's Oracle in case they have a... I think we just get rid of the 2 Memory Deluges here. We don't want to get these surgically extracted. Thought Lash. I think we can try this defense grid. Okay. It's getting a Force of Will. Sure. So our opponent can get to 11 life and deploy a Death Shadow in the very near future. Possibly right now, in fact. We just need some more mana. Okay, we're getting an Evoked Grief that's probably going to get reanimated. So I think we're probably going to lose this game right now. Okay, they're getting rid of the Thirst for Discovery. Interesting. Does that mean they've got the Reanimate to have another bite of the cherry and take the Thought Lash? Counterbalance. Okay. Not the most friendly of things. I think we're just playing a Thassa's Oracle out now as a way of digging. If they have a Surgical Extraction and they get us that way, then we lose. They got Murktide on top of their library. So we'll go okay and choose neither of these. So these both go to the bottom. So we draw a fresh one next turn. So we need to draw an Ancient Tomb lets us deploy the Thought Lash, provided our opponent can't counterspell it. They don't have any 4-drops, so the counterbalance is unlikely to counter. Oh no, that's not a lie. They've got Grief. So now they're just making a big guy. But if we get a Thought Lash, we can keep ourselves alive against a Murktide for the turn we need. Another Thought Lash. I guess we need to try and find that Ancient Tomb. What's our opponent got on top of their library? Another Murktide Regent. What are we looking at here? I guess we want to put this Ancient Tomb on top and say okay. So because we've got so many blue in play, we might be able to do a Paradigm Shift kill at some point. We don't want to attack our opponents because it just makes their big threat bigger. Can I have a Thought Lash, please? Do you have a Grief on top? They've got another Force of Will, but that's okay. So they picked the other Murktide Regent we know about. We're not going to attack them because we don't want to make their Death Shadow bigger. We get to play a Thought Lash next turn, as long as they don't wasteland us. A Brainstorm. Okay. This might prove a little bit challenging. But again, they only have the Griefs. There's only 3 Griefs left in their deck in order to put a 4-drop on top. It is interesting to me that they're doing this Brainstorm now, rather than doing it in response. Okay, I guess they're just trying to get a threat that can win the game. So this comes in for 6, puts us to 6. We very much need to resolve our Thought Lash's turn. They didn't hit Wasteland. Our opponent's got 1 card in hand. If it's a Daze, we lose the game. It's a Murktide Regent, right? We know it's a Murktide. Oh, they had a Grief on top. Blah. That's us done. Sure. So I have to imagine that Death Shadow has got to be one of our worst matchups. They've got Hand Disruption and Counter Spells. And they have a reasonably quick clock once they assemble it. So it feels like it's always going to be difficult. But yeah, just couldn't push through there. All right, let's go to round 2. Our opponent has presented a 61 card deck, which usually means oops all spells. Our opening hand, we have half of our combo and we have a dig spell, but we do have the Force of Will. So I'm going to keep this and hope that the Force of Will is enough to beat the oops player. They kept 7 though. They might not be an oops player. It's just that oops is the only deck that usually runs 61 cards. Okay, it could be... I did play against an elf player a little while back who had 61 cards in their deck. So maybe we're on that front here. I think we can race the elf player. Especially when we don't have to worry about our opponent having any counter magic or discard or anything. They're just trying to do their thing here. So I think we are on the Ancient Tomb Lotus Petal line here. So we can step through to get our Thassa's Oracle. And then next turn, maybe Impulse. We're probably looking at pitching the Malevolent Hermit to the Force of Will. An Elvish Visionary. I think we let this one go. We're just trying to counter the natural order if we can. Now the issue being that they can play Allosaurus Shepherd. Ruin us. They can also tap both of these now to make a 1-drop. It's a Wirewood Symbiote. Sure. This lets them rebuy their Visionary. Which is annoying, but if they're doing those sorts of loops, that's a lot slower than what we're doing, hopefully. Let's Wizard Cycle. Alright, our turn. An Impulse. So we can cast 2 Impulses in the next turn. Or in this turn even. So I think we can pass a turn here and dig 8 cards for a Thought Lash or Paradigm Shift. Ideally, we'd like to not use our Lotus Petal because the Ancient Tomb doesn't help there. A Glimpse of Nature. I think this has to get counterspelled here. So goodbye, Malevolent Hermit. Another Elvish Visionary. That's fine by me. So they can bounce the first Elvish Visionary and untap the Birchall Rangers and then produce another mana here. And then recast a Visionary. Again, if they keep doing these loops, that's not really that bad for us. It's things like Natural Order that we're scared of. And that card not being the Verdant Catacombs instead of the Cradle is very helpful for us. So this goes and gets them Forest, and then they tap their 2 elves and their Forest, and they replay the Visionary. And they get another card in. So they could potentially be bouncing the Visionary on our turn as well. Are they going to attack, or are they fearing Hull Breacher? They're fearing the Hull Breacher. Alright, let's Impulse. Okay, we found a Thought Lash. That's one of the things we want. So we'll take that, and let's put those in any order, I think. We don't need to do another Impulse here. So as long as we have... Our opponent would have to deal us 49 damage, I think, here. Or, well, we don't have to prevent all of it, actually, do we? Oh, we just have it right now because we drew a Lotus Petal. Excellent. So we get to cast this. Our opponent shouldn't really have any way to interact with this right now. So when this comes, so we'll cast this, and then in response to its trigger, we will do our Thought Lash. Just so we know the trigger's on the stack. So we're just going to exile our library here. The reason they're letting us do this is they can see our whole deck list. Okay, they've had enough. They don't want to watch me click through it all. So yeah, so we're going to exile all of our library apart from 4 cards. And then if they do anything to interfere with our thing, we can just exile more cards. Alright, pretty successful. A turn 3 kill there. What do we want to play for the sideboard games? We don't really have anything for the sideboard games, truth be told. Force of Negation can counter a Glimpse, and it can counter a Natural Order. That's probably good enough to play. We probably don't have time to Memory Deluge in this matchup, so I guess we have those. Now, if they have an Allosaurus Shepherd, our Force of Negations don't do anything anyway, so not great, but we can pitch them to Thirst for Discovery if we have to. Yeah, I think it's about as good as it gets, so let's submit this one. Our game plan is basically race. So this is okay. We have a turn 3 Thought Lash. But if we draw a Thassa's Oracle, we can do a turn 3 win with Paradigm Shift. So I think we keep this. Turn 3 on the draw is probably not going to be fast enough. But it could be. Is this going to be Allosaurus Shepherd? No, Birchall again. Sure. It's over to us. What have we got for us deck? A Force of Will. Not a bad pickup. I'll play this island out. And then pass the turn. So we can Force of Will, and then if we want to Paradigm, pitching our Thought Lash, then when we Paradigm Shift, it'll put a Force of Will back into our library. So if we have a pass the turn line, we then get to draw the Force of Will and maybe have it backed up with something. A Cradle is pretty good from our opponent there. So they're going to play out some stuff first. A Wirewood Symbiote. That does not tap for mana with the Birchlaw. A Glimpse of Nature. I would not like you to have a Glimpse of Nature. I think we are supposed to get rid of the Thought Lash here. Well, the Thought Lash does allow us to be safe? Maybe it's the Paradigm Shift. Because the mana we have, it's going to be difficult to cast Paradigm Shift Oracle anyway. They could have a Veil of Summer or something here. Usually you don't see that out of Elves because Allosaurus Shepherd is pretty good. And if they're spending 2 cards on your 1-drops, it's not really a thing. Elves is more worried about removal than counter spells as a general rule. But if we can counter this Glimpse, that'll be alright. Now that might just be bait for the natural order. But again, if we don't counter the Glimpse, we're going to feel pretty foolish. Okay, so it's back over to us. We can pop this this Impulse for a... Why did I say Endurance? We can pop this Impulse for a counter spell if we need to. And we just play out the Otawara here. I'd rather not take 2 damage just in case that becomes important. So next time we get Thought Lash, which prevents a lot of damage from hitting us, but they can assemble way over 51 damage. Now we don't have to prevent all of it, but we need to somehow have a Thassa's Oracle left over in our deck. Is that all they've got? Interesting. Okay. I'll take 3. Just a casual 3. Let's Impulse. What do we find? Chalice of the Void is actually pretty nice here. I think we're still playing Thought Lash this turn, which means... What does this mean? Probably means we want an island for the purposes of casting this Impulse. It doesn't really matter with the order of these because then none of them are the important spell. If one of them was an Oracle, then knowing where the Oracle is in our deck is really important. One thing we do have to think about in this matchup as well is Endurance. They can bring it in to mess with our Paradigm Shift lines if we're expecting to pass a turn and survive a turn, etc. Okay, so this turn we play Thought Lash out. Next turn we are casting Impulse to try and find our Thassa's Oracle. We know the bottom 3 cards of our library do not contain a Thassa's Oracle, so we can't just rip and try and get lucky that way if they try and besage you this. Dryad Arbor. Right, let's exile. Thought Lash. Let's exile another one. Another one. And one more. Malevolent Hermit. Sure. So that should prevent all of this damage. Okay. So we don't take any damage this turn. And next turn, hopefully we get to Impulse. The Thought Lash can prevent the damage from Ancient Tomb as well, which is not nothing. Exile top card of our library. Okay, so we can exile the top 2 cards of our library to prevent our taking damage from Ancient Tomb. And tap blue for this Impulse. Step through any order. And then we can play this out. So we have 3 mana, 4 mana including our Lotus Petal here. So we can cast this Wizard Cycling Step Through to get our Thassa's Oracle. Then we put this on the stack. This way, if they have a Besage You, we won't feel foolish for like exiling our whole library here. Because this trigger is going on the stack. Then we're just going to put all these on the stack until we have 4 cards in our library. How many Thassa's Oracle do we have here? 1, 2. So there is a Thassa's Oracle in the bottom few cards of our library if that becomes relevant. It shouldn't, because this should just trigger because we have 4 blue pips at the moment. There we go. So we got a win there. That was a turn 4. So we've got turn 3 and a turn 4 against the elf player. Our opponent's hand seemed a bit slow. I guess the idea was that the Glimpse of Nature would carry them through, and they kind of just ended up in a situation where they didn't have any like synergy with the Wildwood Symbiote to keep drawing cards or whatever. All right. We are on the board with Lash Gordon. Let's go to round 3. All right, we're on the play here. We have a turn 1 Chalice into turn 2 Impulse. I think this is pretty good. We've got our combo. We just need some land. Let's play some Magic the Gathering. Let's get this gone on the road. Chalice of the Void. X is 1. Let's see if this wrecks our opponent or not. A Wasteland. Okay, so we're the one who's getting a little bit wrecked there. Very nice. An island. So if we can draw an island and cast a Paradigm Shift, then we might be alright. Now, our opponent could have blue spells. Okay, Mystic Sanctuary. That is a blue spell. We missed on land here, so that's not great. So these builds usually have 20 lands. I've gone up to 21, and I have seen one build that has 23. So what is our opponent going to cast here? A Counterbalance. A main deck Counterbalance. Very rude. Alright. We are not going to draw any lands. Expressive Iteration. Yeah, our opponent's on the way to running away with this game. They can throw some stuff into Chalice and build a Murktide, and then we lose. So they're probably going to Lightning Bolt into this Chalice right now. Yeah. This is just to feed their Murktide. And their Dragon's Rage Channeler if they find a way of eventually bouncing this Chalice. Alright, let's see if they got a land on top of their library. A Brainstorm. Okay. So we can cast an Impulse now to try and find a land. I honestly think that's where we're at, so let's just do that. We know this Impulse will resolve because there's a Brainstorm on top of our opponent's library. A Daze, sure. We cannot pay for that. Goodbye, Lotus Petal. Alright, there's the mountain and the volcanic island. So leaving the mountain up. Just another expressive iteration. Ethereal Forager. Okay, so what's it got underneath it? An expressive iteration and a Daze. Yeah? It's pretty good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sure. Until we have to discard... If we have to discard like a Thought Lash or Paradigm Shift, then... Like we've drawn many combo pieces here. But if we have to discard one of these pieces, I'm just going to not show our opponent. They might know what we're on anyway, but we can at least sort of blag what we're doing. We might look like... I guess the Impulse is a bit of a weird one. So they might not think we're something like weird 8-cast deck or something. Alright, so they got the iteration back off their Ethereal Forager. This is what we might be playing against when they ban Murktide. If they ban Murktide. I think they should ban Murktide, but... Alright. It doesn't hit for the most amount of damage. Let's just discard this Chalice. We don't have to give them any more information that way. This Forager is going to hit, and it's probably going to let them pick up their Daze. So casting spells is going to be a little bit challenging for us, I would say. What do you got for us? Ooh, an island. That's exciting, isn't it? But we can't cast a Paradigm Shift. We know they have a Daze. Another Counterbalance. Not sure you need to play the second one, to be honest. Although, if you've got Brainstorms, you can like see what the first one reveals, and then Brainstorm the second one. So I guess it's just a bit more insurance in that front. Well, they can't Brainstorm actually because we've locked out that Brainstorm. So in this situation, unless they can get rid of the Chalice, there's no point having two of these. But again, they can't Brainstorm it back into their deck anyway. So let's see what's on top of our opponent's library. A Brainstorm, sure. So we could try for a Paradigm Shift here. I think it's worth a go. If they Daze, we put the Petal we pay with the... Is this going to resolve? There's the Daze. We will pay for the Daze. If this resolves, we get the Lotus Petals back in our deck anyway. We have another one. Sure. They know what we're playing for sure now. So if we cast a Paradigm Shift next turn, how many cards? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards. That's a bit challenging. I guess we can put the Ancient Tomb and then try and play a Thought Lash. Force of Will, that's not unhelpful. Let's see what's under the counterbalance. A Ponder, sure. So we know that our opponent's got a load of blanks right now. A Force of Will. Now the problem with this line is, if we Force of Will this Force of Will, then we go to 5. Which means we can't use our Ancient Tomb to play this Thought Lash. And we can't... I think we have to let this go and try and draw an Ancient Tomb. Because if we go to 1, with the cards that would be available in our deck, we can't win. If we had one more land, then we could just put the Petal on top and then just do another shift. But having lands on top is not a thing that we've really had a great... we haven't had a lot of luck with the old mana base today. A little bit awkward. This game is punishing us a little bit. But if we can draw an Ancient Tomb now... Okay, that's not an Ancient Tomb. What does this do for us? This lets us die. Sure, I think we can concede the game. Yeah, we just got killed by that first Wasteland. Bit brutal, but it happens. So I think we want defense grids. I think that makes sense to me. Which means we're probably boarding out these Force of Wills. We can keep... I guess we can board in a Brazen Borrower. Sure, let's try it like this. We could keep one Force of Will in for when it's like our turn and we don't have a defense grid. But I don't like this one. I think we need something... This is a turn 1 Chalice. But we kind of saw that turn 1 Chalice is very good against Elva. So I think it is probably worth keeping this. We'll chuck back one of the step throughs. I don't think we're going to need 2 of them. So done. We will need to draw a land here, but we do at least have another petal. Alright, so this is a Force of Will pitching a Brainstorm. Sure. So we're looking at a Dragon's Rage Channeler, I imagine. A Ponder. Okay, that's good for us. That's not a threat. We would very much like to draw an island this turn. There's a lot of them in the deck, so... Are we playing this game again? I think we try out the Chalice here. Oh, wow, it's stuck. Okay, so that shuts off a bunch of our opponent's deck. No Ponders, no Brainstorms, no Lightning Bolts. This is going to be... Okay, they're just meltdowning. That's fine. Let's try this little guy. If he gets countered, we at least get to bring him back when we get another mana. So we're kind of getting there. Kind of being very much the operative words there. What do we got? An island. I think we can attack with our Malevolent Hermit here. I'm happy to trade it for either of these guys. Well, they just snapped that off straight away, did they? Let's play this guy. Non-creature spells I control can't be countered. Okay, they're just Pyroblasting it. Okay. That's one less Pyroblast for our other spells. So it's kind of doing the job it needs to there. It's absorbed a counter spell. We remove one of their threats, but they do now have 2/3/3s. So, not a big fan of this. An Otawara. I think we are on cycle, step through, and hold on to the Otawara. So we're going to take 6 this turn. So it's a 3-turn clock unless they have something to accelerate it, like another creature. A counterbalance. Okay. Let's do some wizard cycling. Okay. A Thought Lash. How many 4-drops do they realistically have in their deck, right? It can't be that many. I have to imagine it's the 2-drop that they've left on top. With their Surveils. Okay, so we're not taking damage anymore. But we need to find a way of getting this Thassa's Oracle to resolve. Which, with a counterbalance, is going to be hard. 5. Okay. An Ancient Tune. That doesn't really do any of the things we need it to do right now. So... I think we need to find a spell to throw into the counterbalance to at least see what's on top of their deck. We don't have to just go for it right now. Because we do have our Thought Lash. Alright, so this Brainstorm is going to be on 2. This is where having Caverns in our deck would actually be useful. So they left the card on top. So I have to imagine they just got 2-drop floating. Which means we need to find... Well, we need to find something, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Kind of annoying losing this Otawara and Thassa's. Those are both things that we could realistically do things with. Okay. So this is going to have 2 cards I need to remove for this. No. An Impulse. So this is something we can use our opponent's end step to check. So I think that's what we're going to do. I think we might as well play out our Ancient Tomb in case this becomes useful or relevant. Let's see what our opponent reveals. A Daze. Okay, so that was a Daze I expected that our opponent was floating on top. Okay, so now they're cracking it because they don't want to draw it. Expressive Iteration. Sure. A Wasteland. On our Otawara. I think that's fine. Just let that go. I guess we get punished if we draw one of the memories, but there's only 1 Memory Deluge left in our deck. And I'd rather cast my spell at the end of turn to see what our opponent leaves on top of their library. Okay, so putting some cards into their graveyard. I mean, there was no 2-drops. They did not shuffle their library. Okay, so now I have to exile 9 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can't remember how many I've done now. We don't have to exile all of our cards anyway. And take a bit of damage. Alright, let's see what they've left on top. Counterbalance on top. Understood. Those declined. We'll play that out. And we'll pass the turn. So we've got 21 cards left in our library. Did our opponent have 2 drops they left on top? Let's see what they do with this Surveil. There'll become a time where we just have to go for the Thassa's Oracle. Okay, so they put a DRC and an Ethereal Forager. They've milled nearly as many cards as we have. That's how ridiculous these little Dragon's Rage Channelers are. Okay, exile 1, exile 2, exile 3, exile 4, exile 5, exile 6, and we take 3. Alright, so that's all the damage prevented. Well, not all the damage. We've taken a little bit, but we're not in lightning bolt range. So our opponent doesn't know the top card of their library. So we draw an island. So we can either go for it this turn. How many Thassa's Oracles do we have in the deck? 1 Thassa's Oracle, 2 Thassa's Oracle, 3 Thassa's Oracle. So we have no Thassa's Oracles left in our deck. Our opponent doesn't know the top card of their library. What do we have in our... So, the Brazen Borrower was gone. One Brazen Borrower was gone. I think we had 2 in our deck, didn't we? So we could potentially draw 1 next turn. What about Malevolent Hermit? That's not really going to help, is it, here? We're trying to get this uncountable. I think we have to go for it now. So let's just play this guy out. They had a daze, sure. We lose. Actually, do we have a paradigm shift in our deck? 1 paradigm shift, 2 paradigm shift, 3 paradigm shift, 4 paradigm... No, we didn't have any outs there. Sure. Bit grim, but that counterbalance did a lot of work there. Alright, we're on the play for round 4. Hand is not the fastest, but I think we can keep it on the play. Opponent's mulligan to 6 cards. Okay, they're beginning with a Leyline in the Void in play, which is interesting for us. Because this means that our paradigm shift is going to do some real work. So I imagine our opponent is on the mono-black Helm deck. I think we still play the Chalice, even though our opponent did make a 1-drop. We don't have 1-drops, so the Chalice will shut off Dark Ritual lines. It will shut off Thought Seizers if they're on the Thought Seize build. Some of these Downton Helm decks play the Chalice themselves, though, so probably boarding these Chalices out in the next game, but... Alright. What have you got for us, opponent? 3 mana. Rotting Regisaur. Sure. Otawara. So this turn we are going to make a little Hermit. And then pass a turn. We can afford to take the 7 here. We can take 2 hits of 7. And see how we fare. If we draw another land, we can also Otawara. Although I think I'd rather just Memory Deluge and try and win the game. Swamp. 3 mana. Is this another Regisaur? It is another Regisaur. Understood. We have to block next turn. Thassa's Oracle. Okay. Okay. I think we play out our Otawara. Oh wait, we just win the game now, right? We just go Paradigm Shift, blue, blue. We have no cards in our graveyard, thanks to our opponent. And cast this. Our opponent's a mono black deck, so they're not going to really have any ways of dealing with this. And put the I win the game trigger on the stack. Excellent. Alright. Mono black Helm. So Null Rod, it stops their Helm. And Energy Flux can mess with some of their mana, which is okay. I don't mind Brazen Borrower and the Force of Negations here. I don't particularly like Chalice of the Void. Now, if we're bringing in Null Rods, are we supposed to be bringing out our Lotus Petals? That doesn't feel fantastic. Maybe we're just supposed to play a slower game here and get rid of a couple of Lotus Petals. We could get rid of these other Lotus Petals and board in the Energy Fluxes, which is maybe a bit greedy in the face of... But we know they're going to be a Chrome Mox deck. So this can basically just blow up Chrome Moxes. Is that worth doing and pitching? I think it probably is, actually, you know. Maybe I'm wrong, but they're also just blue cards, right? And we can discard them to Thirst for Discovery if we need to. I do not have any blue mana, so we're going to mulligan this. This has blue mana. It has our combo, eventually. I think we can keep this. What do we get rid of here? If we get Thoughtseize, they're probably going to take the step through. Quite like the interaction of the Malevolent Hermit here. The Thought Lash is going to be reasonably good too. Maybe it's the Thought Lash. That's the easier part of our combo to find. I like the fact that Malevolent Hermit is at least some interaction here. It lets us counter a non-creature spell when the time comes. We could just be getting hymned on turn 1 as well, which is another reason why I didn't really want to get rid of any lands. Okay, we're getting Thoughtseize. We're going to lose step through here. That's the obvious choice, I think. I took the Paradigm Shift. Does that mean they've got another discard spell for next turn? Let's play an island. I think if you want to take the step through there, I think, right? Because the Oracle is hard to find. Rotting Regisaur. Okay. Playing out the big boy. We can play out the Malevolent Hermit this turn. And we can get the Thassa's Oracle next turn. Holding up our Malevolent Hermit next turn. So hopefully our opponent doesn't make another Rotting Regisaur. That would be bad news for us. We just take 7 here. Helm of Obedience, you say. Okay. A step through. Okay, so we can hold up Malevolent Hermit, and then we can cycle the step through. Step through is a sorcery, so we don't get to bounce the Regisaur with a discard trigger on the stack later on. So we take 7 here. We need to keep open our Hermit in case our opponent plays a Leyline. Let's Wizard Cycle. Let's get ourselves a Thassa's Oracle. Oh, this is an opposition agent, isn't it? Ugh. Yuck. We can't count on that one. Very rude. Very, very rude indeed. So they get to take one of our Thassa's Oracles out of our deck. Disgusting. Force of Will. Nice of you to join the party. So here's our other Malevolent Hermit. So what we can do is we can bounce the opposition agent. I guess they can just cast it instant speed, they can't they? So we can block with one of our Malevolent Hermits here on the Regisaur. If they're attacking with both though, we will block both here and we'll take the opposition agent out. Just a Leyline. Thassa's Oracle. Okay. If our opponent's got another opposition agent, fair enough, you guys. Yep. Okay, sure. I don't think we win without casting this, so at least we have a chance of winning. So now we are on draw, Thought Lash or bust. And we could still lose the game due to Helm of Obedience. Come on, Thought Lash. We did not draw Thought Lash. So we are on the let's put Malevolent Hermit into play as Benevolent Geist. And I think we play out this island, so next time we can have hard cast Force of Will. If that becomes a relevant thing, it probably isn't, is it? It also gives us the most mana to work with. Oh, yikes. So they get to play a Thassa's Oracle. So we've only got 2 Thassa's Oracles in our deck. But a Thought Lash can keep us alive for a little while. And then if we can somehow kill their Thassa's Oracle, we at least get to paradigm shift it back into our deck maybe. So we have to block the Regisaur or we die. Alright. This is going to be tough. An Agadeem. Sure. Okay, so playing our Malevolent Hermit. Weird choice considering they can't activate it. It should have just got a Thassa's Oracle to reduce our chance of drawing one. Okay, they could mill us some cards, I guess. Force of Negation. Okay, we're dead. Alright, so game 3. I think this is okay. We'll just submit. I don't really want to have all these petals when we're working on lower resources from potential hymns and things like that. So now we're on the play. We do have our combo. I think we can keep this. We have a Force of Negation for like a Thoughtseize, which feels pretty gross. But I think that might be what we have to do here. We just need to get up to casting Thought Lash. And then we should be fine. Let's see what our opponent opts to do with their first turn. Agadeem. Paying 3 life. Thoughtseizing us. I think we will protect ourselves and get rid of this Energy Flux. That was pretty bad anyway. This is where they Chrome Mox afterwards. I think you probably Chrome Mox before you play your spell just in case I have a daze. Which is possible. Okay. So cast Step Through, then we cast Paradigm Shift. That seems like a game plan. If our opponent's got more discard, then fair enough. This looks more like a big Regisaur coming our way. A Thoughtseize. Okay, let's see if they take the correct one here. They should take the Step Through. What am I doing? We're supposed to cycle. We're supposed to cycle it in response so that they take the Thassa's Oracle and then we can Paradigm Shift it. Oh my god, I'm so bad. I've never played this deck before, and the second after I pressed the pass priority button, I realised the correct play there. Although if they do that, then they can take the Paradigm Shift. I guess that puts us in a much of a muchness situation. Okay, we drew a Step Through, so not really punished. Okay, a Chrome Mox. Imprinting Rotting Regisaur. A Dalthy Voidwalker. That's fine. They can bounce 2 of my creatures with a Step Through if they want to. You have 2 colourless left for the rest of their turn. They got to play. Oh, we're going to have something weird like a Khan. A Helm of Obedience. Okay. That's pretty cheeky. Let's Wizard Cycle. Let's get the Thassa's Oracle. Oh, how are we supposed to beat Helm of Obedience here? I don't think we can beat Helm of Obedience here, which is awkward. Maybe we just have to hope our opponent makes a mistake, does it at the wrong time. Duress. Okay. Doesn't feel like they're going to do it at the wrong time here. And they get to mill our whole library out and we lose. Sure. Yikes, we're 1-3. Not having a great league of it with this deck, to be honest. There's, I've got some thoughts about this list that I'm definitely going to have a look at. Alright, let's go to the final round and see if we can get a 2-3 and at least get a little bit of dignity back. We're on the play. What does our hand do? We can cast a turn 1 Memory Deluge. Or we can Wizard Cycle on turn 1. That seems pretty good. I don't like the fact that our only blue mana is from these Lotus Petals. Let that be known. We'll play our Ancient Tomb. Play out Lotus Petal. Play out Lotus Petal. Pass the turn. So we can Wizard Cycle, and if we can draw into a blue source next turn, we can win the game. Our opponent not playing anything. This is suspicious. Let's Wizard Cycle. Let's see what they discard. A Grizzlebrand. Okay, that's what they're doing. Understood. We drew a blue source. So, let's try this. We have one card in our library. This should win us the game. Okay, so we had a turn 2 win there. Lotus Petals look pretty good. Maybe I shouldn't have boarded them out against the mono black deck. Maybe I shouldn't have. Alright, let's go to game 2. So our opponent is on some sort of reanimator. I would like 4 Leyline of the Void, please. And we probably want these Force of Negations. I don't think this is a game where we're going to have time to mess around with these sorts of things. So we can probably cut those. We've got 2 more slots to find here. Now, the Malevolent Hermit is fine. But is fine good enough? Is Thought Lash too expensive? I don't know. I think it's probably okay. I think I'm leaning towards cutting these Hermits. They're quite slow before they get online to do their thing. There's even a world where I should be doing Brazen Borrowers, but I think we're just going to go Leyline of the Void, protect Leyline of the Void with counterspells. It's a pretty tried and tested way of playing Magic the Gathering, right? Against reanimated decks. What does this hand do? We have the Force of Will, but we don't know if our opponent is blue reanimator or black-red reanimator. I'm imagining they're black-red, the way they pitch the card there. Like this hand has our combo rolled up, and it has a counterspell, but we're just going to lose to any discard. I think we should mulligan until we hit Leyline. Right, we hit Leyline and a very good hand, so we can keep this. And I guess we bottom the step through here. We're just looking for a blue mana here. Start of Leyline in play. Carry on, opponent. I imagine this won't stop our opponent from being able to win the game. Okay, so we're going to lose our paradigm shift here, which is annoying. But such is the nature of things. Alright, back to us. We will play out our basic island so we can at least possibly represent something like a daze that we might have drawn. Or a misstep, or whatever it's called. Opponent did not have a second land. That's pretty nice for us. I think we just need this in play, so let's... I think we want the Hermit in play, if they're missing land drops. It just gives us a little bit of insurance. Now they can play Land Serenity here and we're in trouble. They didn't. Okay, so if it just goes straight back to us, then I think we're in a good spot. Excellent. This is what we want to draw here. We'll cast this Thassa's Oracle so we can dig into our deck and try and find something like a Thought Lash, for example. And then we will pass the turn. I guess we attack as well, actually. So our opponent definitely looks like a red-black reanimated deck. So next turn we cast Thought Lash, holding up Malevolent Hermit. And then the turn after we cast our Thassa's Oracle and win the game. So I'm... I think we have to counter this. Or the exile for this. I think, okay. I'd like to protect our Thassa's Oracle in hand. Are we just going to get Thoughtseize now? Okay, they are the blue-black build, perhaps. Actually, no, that's not true. They could just be... Okay, so we lose that. Okay. Bit mean, but here we are. I think we attack with our Oracle. I think we play this out now so it's not in our hand, so it can't be discarded. Again, we can get swept up by Serenity this way, but our opponent has just been like pointing discard spells at our face. And they didn't fetch a white source. Okay, this does look like mono black because that's a key part of it, Dark Ritual. Unmask is unlikely to be seen in the blue black as well, but I don't know what people are trying out. But if you're playing Dark Ritual and Unmask, you probably don't have room for blue stuff. Okay, so we've got Show and Tell coming in here. We have no cards to put in. Not ideal. A Grizzlebrand. Sure. We gotta draw something soon. Opponent's going to clean up. They're going to discard a bunch of stuff into the exile zone. Just the one thing. Okay, so we pay for our Thought Lash here. A step through. Okay, this seems... Okay, let's just Wizard Cycle this. We don't want to randomly exile our 2 remaining Oracles if we get unlucky there. So, hold control. We'll cast this. Then with this on the stack, we'll start exiling cards. Okay, our opponents conceded whilst we're doing that. So we did finish with a 2-3. So we did at least get a little bit of dignity back there. Let's have a little chat about the deck. So... I like some of what this deck's doing, for sure. I think the actual combo is inherently strong. It ignores combat. It ignores anything that's going to stop people taking damage or whatever. You can kind of ignore what your opponent's doing, and if you do your thing, you win. You avoid graveyard hate, and things like Leyline can actually speed up your kill because of paradigm shift. Thought Lash is a combo piece that also has some pretty useful text. Being able to keep yourself alive for extended periods of time is pretty handy. So I quite like what Thought Lash is doing in this deck. There's some things I don't like in this deck though. Like the Malevolent Hermit, I understand why it's there. And it kind of did its job a little bit against Delver. But I think we could probably do better. Also, I don't really like Chalices and this sort of stuff. So what is weird to me is we are playing a mono blue A+B combo deck. But we don't have the best mono blue ways of finding cards. So we have no Brainstorm, we have no Ponder, we have no Preordain, we have none of these amazing cards that let us find the things that we're supposed to be doing. Which to me is really wild. Now, we could, we could splash other colours as well if we wanted to. I know there's a black build that runs Baleful Strix as like a guy that can just get in the way, as well as drawing a card and being blue to pitch to stuff. And it also runs Divining Witch, which you can, if you're unfamiliar with Divining Witch, you basically exile a card from the top of your library. You pay 2, I think, and tap. It's a 2-mana 1/1, and you pay 2, tap it, and you exile a bunch of cards from the top of your library until you hit a card you named. I think you exile 7 cards first, and then you flip cards until you find the card you've named. And then you exile all the other cards, and then you keep that card in your hand. So the idea is you like go find Thassa's Oracle, and then the next time you cast it, you name something that isn't in your deck, and you just mill your whole deck out and play the Thassa's Oracle. So that's the blue-black version. But I think there's something nice to having the really streamlined, we don't care about wastelands here, we have all this blue mana. But I just think we could be doing something a bit more with it. We could be playing things like Preordain in this deck. Now, because we don't have fetch lands, I understand that's why we don't have Brainstorm in there. We could add a bunch of fetch lands in and Brainstorm, but then fetch lands is just another thing that our opponent can interact with. And obviously Chalice is a powerful tool. But as we saw, Ancient Tomb doesn't always do the things you want it to do, right? We had some times where this not being a blue source meant that we couldn't necessarily do the things that would actually win us the game. So I think there's definite ways of building this deck other than the way that this is built. So really, this is basically the deck. This pile of 15 cards here. This is the deck. Whatever you want to put around it, I think, can markedly change the way it operates and what its good matchups and bad matchups are going to be. So I'm definitely going to have a little think and try and brew on this. I was going to brew a Thought Lash deck called Lash Gordon and do some cool stuff, but I think it was right for me to play a pretty stock list first and then get a little bit of an idea how it feels to play with and sort of the ins and outs of it a little bit, so I can have a bit more information when I start brewing with this, because I definitely like this combo and I want to do some more stuff with it. Obviously, the Ancient Tomb is very good for accelerating out Thought Lashes, and it's very good for casting a step through. But it feels like we're playing Chalice in this deck because Ancient Tomb is good for doing this. So we've got this Ancient Tomb, so we might as well play Chalice. Or we're playing Chalice, we might as well have Ancient Tomb, that sort of thing. And I think this might be a little bit of a trap. I think fast mana from Petals might just be better. We could even go down the line of Chrome Mox if that's something we were interested in. But looking at how decks like Cephalid Breakfast work, where they don't really have much in the way of fast mana, they just kind of, like, obviously their combo can go turn 1, turn 2, kill you. Ours is a little bit slower than that, but we have this, we have potentially a mana base that is very hard to disrupt, which I think is pretty useful. Sideboard wise, we did come across a matchup we didn't have anything for, but I think that was the Elf matchup, which is fine. Like, you're not going to have things for everything, and we did win that matchup quite handily. So yeah, like, we just had the race on that one. Yeah, not really much else to say about this one. I think there's quite a lot of room for improvement in brewing on this one. I don't know if any of the big brewers who sort of tune decks a lot have really attacked this one as much as they could have. I feel like there's a lot of room for improving this one or tweaking it and all sorts of things. So I'm definitely looking forward to messing around with this one in the future. All right, that was a pretty quick league today, but I hope you still enjoyed it. And if you're still here, why not leave a like, leave a comment, tell me what you want to see, tell me things that you think could go in this sort of Lash Gordon deck and make it better. And subscribe if you haven't, because that's a really good way of helping me, because I'm trying to hit that 1,000 subscriber threshold. All right, I think we're done here, so thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.